sixth and final season. So we've been building up for this moment for 6 seasons. Elisabeth, can you think back to when you first accepted this project? You've grown so much creatively along with playing June. You've directed for your first time and you're executive producing. What can you share about how this project has changed your life?
I mean, I've said this before, but it feels like it hasn't been a part of my life. It really has been my life for the last 9 years, and these guys can attest to that, for better or worse. It's really been the main thing that has consumed me. And so how do you talk about something that has been such a, has been your life for 9 years? All I can think is I just can't imagine not having said yes to it. I don't know what my life would be now. I don't know what my career would be. I don't know where I would be as an artist. I just can't even imagine. So I'm so grateful that I was asked to do it and made the right choice at the time.
Yahlin, why did you guys decide that the 6th season would be the end? And what can you tease about this huge arc that we're seeing from the trailer where we all come down to war?
Well, this season is really the last time that we have an opportunity to tell these stories with these characters and to tell stories of refugees, of the oppressed, of people who have lost everything, of what it feels like to see our country disappear beneath your feet. And so we feel very lucky that we were able to tell stories like this, and this was our last chance. It was now or never. And so for us, we really wanted to write kind of like a love letter to our fans, where it could be incredibly rewarding and satisfying, and a season full of wish fulfillment. Everything that we wanted to see, we wanted to put on the screen. We wanted to leave very little on the field, except for what's in the sequel. So I just feel incredibly lucky, and I hope that you guys enjoy it.
Wait, so if it's wish fulfillment, does that mean that we're gonna have June and Nick get married and live happily ever after? Any Team Nick people out here? Am I alone? No.
I think that, the guiding light for us as storytellers has always been to be truthful, to be as honest and authentic to our characters as possible. And so the ending for June is an extremely truthful, honest ending.
So that means no. Bradley, you've done such a wonderful job playing this commander. We never know what side he's on, like what he's gonna do next. And as we saw in the trailer, Commander says, like, we broke this place and we're gonna have to fix it together. So what can you tease about what's coming up for Commander Lawrence, and whether or not he'll be aligning again with June Osborne?
He frustrates me because I feel like he's always been a guy whose big brain obliterated his humanity, and his humanity kind of peeks out in different ways, like initiating a relationship with this weird Handmaid. So I have a lot of hopes for him, but you kind of reap what you sow in this world. I really need to say, I say it every chance I get, I've never seen anybody do what Lizzie Moss has done.
Give it up.
This show. It's so because the series, it's incredible what she does on screen, and I've seen her embody June Osborne by fighting for the future she wants to see as a creator, and I think that's an important part of the show now, which can be perceived as depressing in a world that has made it seem like a documentary, but at the center of that show is this character that understands that despair is a luxury that our children cannot afford, and that action is the antidote to despair. So I'm hoping people feel that. And the show works on a million different levels. It's a gothic romance, it's a horror movie, it's a social critique, and we care about these characters, we care about our relationship with the audience, and I think all of these actors really felt like the writers stuck the landing on this, so we're excited about it.
Yvonne, talk about taking this character and really evolving her into one of the biggest, most amazing arcs of across the whole entire series. Serena Joy is not who we first meet in season 1 when we see her in season 6. Talk to me a little bit about how you put into these different layers and to create the person that she becomes in the final season.
That's such a hard question to answer. I mean, I think the key for me was, it's easy to judge Serena. Obviously, she is a despicable person for the most part, but and that's been difficult. There have been many times where I have not wanted to be in her shoes. It's been challenging in that way, as someone with empathy, you know, for June and what June is experiencing often in the scenes we do together. But I just always went from the inside out. I mean, I just leave the judgment at home or, you know, for later, and try and bring some humanity to her and her inner turmoil and what might be going on in her heart, even though there's been a lot of times where I disagree with everything that she's doing. Yeah, so it's just sort of building the inner layers. Yeah.
Would you say that you're proud of her by the time the show is done?
I would say a little bit. A little bit. I think she has evolved over the years, and I think the beacon of hope that June has always held for Serena, that Serena can change and can open her narrow-minded, narcissistic viewpoint and see what her actions have done, how they have affected people, the consequences, the greater scale of the whole thing. June's faith in Serena's change has worn off. And I think we have seen that over the seasons, and I think more than ever in season 6 we will see a little bit more of that, but you know, let's not all hold our breath. I'm not going to give anything else away.
It is an amazing thing in the show. June is basically kind of blowing on the spark of decency in all of these characters, and it's something I love about the writing and the performance of this.
Yeah, she's always believed in the good of people, to her detriment sometimes, because sometimes people aren't good and they don't do the right thing. And I think this season is so much about choice, and the choice whether to go towards the light or go towards the dark. And the characters, the choices that they make are sometimes surprising, and you won't see them coming for sure. But I would say that's, yeah.
Yahlin, I'd love to hear from you about kind of how these two women's fate are kind of intertwined.
I think I'll speak to that.
Okay.
I mean, these two women, and definitely informed by just the unbelievable, out-of-this-world performances by both these actresses. I mean, their relationship is probably like one of the most complex relationships in the history of television, I have to think. From abuser to abused to, you know, liberated or deliberated. I mean, the way that they've flipped, their dynamic has flipped constantly about who has the power and who doesn't. In season 6, June has so much power over Serena, and it's interesting to see how she uses it, mostly because Serena really wants June's forgiveness above all, and June for Serena is sort of her vehicle for redemption, and she is desperate for June to forgive her. And June, for so many obvious reasons, finds it incredibly difficult to forgive Serena, even while June does all these amazing things, like helps her give her baby and saves her in the first episode. And so their relationship has been really, for me, the most fun to write, because there's two such extraordinary, powerful, brilliant women, and they're enemies and friends, and there's so much love and hate between them. It's just, it's such a privilege as a writer to be able to delve into that.
It's incredible that Margaret Atwood's book that inspired the series is 40 years old, and yet here we are turning on our TVs and seeing a lot of things that are still coming up in our news. Do any of you want to touch upon everything that's? I know, Bradley, you have a lot of great opinions on that.
Well, I can't keep my yaps shut. I think the reason this book, I'm constantly comparing, obviously, what is happening, and I think part of the reason the book is so important and the story is so important. I grew up in a time where naively I thought that a more inclusive society was inevitable, and that democracy was inevitable. And I think the fundamental message of the book is that neither, it never was, it isn't, and it never will be. We don't just get a democracy, we don't just get a decent society. We have to make it every day. And misogyny is not going to disappear, racism is not going to disappear. The temptations of fascism and manipulation are never going to disappear. And I think that we're caught here in a moment where we realize we were kind of naive about that. And Margaret never was. I'll see you in the internment camp.
Don't say that to a grown person, please. Our time is almost out, so I want to ask, down the line, I'd love to ask you guys, what do you take away from your experience working on The Handmaid's Tale? What do you hope everybody that watched takes away from it? No pressure.
I think what Brad was talking about that June brings to the show is, I hope people take from the show, which is hope, which is looking towards the light, which is this spreading of humanity and this belief that ultimately people will do the right thing and will make the right choice and will choose understanding and choose love. And I think that is ultimately, for me, being really deep inside the show and really living and breathing it for the past 9 years, to me that is ultimately the message of the show.
America is a lovely, fragile experiment, and like Chris Murphy always says, democracy is a very unnatural form of government. 75% of countries are autocracies. That's sort of what we want, as human beings, apparently. And so we have to be very careful. And like June, we have to always fight for what we know is right.
Bradley?
Yeah, this is kind of ironic because we're storytellers, this show is a testament both to the power of storytelling and obviously the inadequacy of it. And I think that June is pushing a message that we have to fight, constantly fight for the future that we want. It's an act of our creation. And I think progressive people tend to think that culture is the way you create your moral vision, and we're too cool for school to see that politics is actually the way you create your moral vision. The West Wing won't help you if you have a pre-existing condition. There are now 64,000 pregnant rape victims in the United States who don't have access to abortion care, even though the show's a big hit. You gotta, I want people to get from June, you gotta fight for this. You gotta fight for the future you want your kids to have.
Yvonne, close us out.
There's no way I can follow any of it. I echo everyone's words, and I think I think I speak for all of us when I say how proud we are to be a part of something that not only is great entertainment and has just been crafted with such meaning, and everyone's contributions have been so thoughtful, but how much Margaret Atwood's work and consequently our work on the TV show collectively has become a symbol of hope and resistance, and how deeply meaningful that is, I think, for all of us, and the gratitude we have to be part of something that has made such a global impact, both fortunately and unfortunately for all the reasons we've talked about today.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'm gonna sneak one last one here. Season 4 finale, Fred Waterford. Is that a teaser as to what we can expect? Most like times, a million in the finale of this, and we're literally walking out.
Women of Gilead have had enough, and they are going to fight back.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen, the cast of The Handmaid's Tale. Make sure